But I just want to take a minute and address our regathering plan that we have for our church and really our entire network of churches. I'm sure by now you saw a news clip or you heard or somebody told you about the president declaring houses of worship essential and pushing governors to approve churches. Maybe even you knew about from a couple weeks ago a group of churches in Southern California that came out and said, we're opening our buildings on May 31st, no matter what, whether we have permission or not. And so with all of this stuff going on, you're probably wondering, what are we going to do? Like, hey, what's our church doing? And so I want to tell you. Now, the first thing is you need to know we're not reopening because we never closed. And that might seem subtle, but it's very important to us because what we've proved during the season is that church is people, it's not property. And over the last couple of months, even though we haven't been able to gather as we used to, we have been more alive, seeing God work in our lives and through our lives in our community, I would dare say, in the last 2 months in a greater way than ever before. And so it's not a reopening plan, friends. It's on purpose called a regathering plan. And before I give you the specifics of that, let me just be really clear and tell you that we are not regathering in the hundreds or thousands on our physical properties in the next week or weeks, indoors, as we used to. I believe we are going to regather in the next couple weeks, but it is going to be distributed throughout hundreds, maybe even thousands of locations in our community. We're going to do that. And let me tell you why we're not regathering on our properties yet. A couple reasons. The first one is age-appropriate programs and ministries are so important to us. It's a huge investment of our space and our resources because we believe in environments that help kids find and follow Jesus at an age-appropriate level. And if we were to open our doors right now, all the churches that are talking about meeting and planning on meeting in person, none of them are doing kids ministry or youth ministry. It's going to be family worship services only. And so that would just be very different than what we do. And I think there's another problem with that idea, especially for young kids. They don't know how to socially distance. Another problem with us having to get with churches that are trying to gather, you're going to have to do it at 30% to 50% of your room capacity. So if your church seats 100, you could only have 30 to 50 people in there. If it seats 1,000, you can do the math, right? You could have 300 or 500 in there. And so think about a church our size. How many services would we have to do to make sure that everybody could attend a service, assuming everybody would actually be comfortable coming, which I think that's a whole other issue right now as well. And so we would have to add way more services. And then how would you know if you could even show up to those services and get a seat? To answer that question, you know what some churches are doing? They're saying, go online and reserve your seat. Essentially, you have to have a ticket to get in so we know we have enough seats for you at that service time. Now, I don't know about those churches and I'm not judging them. They have a right to have a different opinion than us and to do that. But here's what I know about this church. This has always been a place where you can come as you are and everybody is welcome. And so there's no way we're going to say, hey, come as you are and everybody's welcome as long as you have a ticket. We're just not going to do that. And so as of right now, we are not going to gather back in hundreds or thousands on our physical properties. But we do have a regathering plan that I am super excited about. You can go to our website and it is there in great detail. But I just want to walk you through it because our regathering plan is comprised of 3 distinct, unique stages. And let me just tell you, these phases don't line up with San Diego County or the state of California or the federal government's phases because since everybody else's are confusing, we thought we'd just make up our numbers and add to the confusion of which phase and number are we talking about. So ours is as simple as we could. 3 phases, here's what they are. The first one is home churches. These are gatherings of individual family units watching online. That's what we've been doing and still are doing right now. Phase 2 is what we call neighborhood churches. These are gatherings of dozens or a dozen, meeting in backyards or homes. And then phase 3 is community churches. Phase 3 is when we would gather in hundreds, thousands, or thousands back on our properties with age-appropriate programming. So let me just walk you through these real quick. Home churches is what we have been in and what we are in right now, where we are offering great online services for all of our age groups, which, by the way, you've been watching and you've been hearing. We are offering a brand new Students United service and Kids United service every single week beginning in June. And so we are even making what we offer online better as we head into the summer. And so home church is where everything's only offered online. There's no in-person gatherings of any kind at all. Now, let me talk to you about phase 2, which is neighborhood churches. I'm really excited about this. And in phase 2, you have a couple options. We're going to continue to offer online just as we are now. But here's the other option, that you can gather, because I think there's some wisdom in gathering in a dozen or dozens before gathering in hundreds. And so we're as allowed, when this is allowed, and this is a plan of what, not when. We're watching for guidelines. We're listening to local officials. But when social gatherings, and I think this is going to happen real soon because people are already going to restaurants in San Diego, and that when people are gathering in backyards of 12 or 20, that we're going to have backyard churches where you can get back together with friends. You can invite a few family friend groups over. You can get your growth group back together, and you can meet in a backyard or inside of a home or a front yard or wherever, and you could do one of two things. You could watch the service online together, or this is really unique and really fun. You could have a live neighborhood church experience with an acoustic worship, guitar player and singer, and live speaking. We're going to mobilize our entire staff, as well as any of our growth group leaders or leaders in the church that have a little bit of a teaching gift that would be comfortable saying, I would be comfortable giving an abbreviated 10 to 15 minute version of the message, which will still be online in its entirety, in a backyard setting. And we are going to mobilize our staff and everybody, and I'm going to go to as many backyards as I can, to be able to experience gathering together with each other. And so that is what a neighborhood church is all about. And in that phase, growth groups can start meeting again. I think small groups of support groups could start meeting. Look at the chart on the website, and we will follow kind of the guidelines, and you can see everything that's there in phase 2. One other unique thing about phase 2. You've heard in San Diego that when San Diego moves into the next phase, they're encouraging worship services outdoors. I think there's going to be opportunity for us to gather once a month here, kind of over these summer months, in some larger formats, potentially on our properties or in rented places, where we can be outside, socially distanced, and experience a larger worship environment together outdoors in a very safe environment. And so be looking for that during this phase 2 as well. And then phase 3, our community churches. This is when we get back together on our buildings in our physical locations. Now, when will that be? I have no idea. But here's what I know. I can tell you probably when it won't be. In the next few weeks, or maybe even in the next couple of months. We are prayerfully, diligently, and thoughtfully watching this, and we are staying fast, fluid, and flexible kind of every day and every week. And so this plan is held very loosely, and we are willing to change it like that as circumstances change. But our plan as of right now is to stay in phase 1 and phase 2 throughout the summer months, where we're still going to gather online, neighborhood churches, and then potentially once a month in some outdoor settings. And then our hope would be that we could be back together on our properties as we kick off the fall. That will remain to be seen. Now, regardless, here's what I know. We have never stopped being the church. We've never stopped praying. We've never stopped serving. We've never stopped being generous and making a difference in our communities. And we're going to do that in any phase and through any stage, how this goes. I am so grateful to be a part of this great Jesus community called Eastlake Church. We have never closed. We've never stopped. And let's keep being the church during this season, because I know as God has great plans for you, and he's got great plans for us together.